Chair, I'd asked him to answer, then I conclude.
No, we have already given directives.
Okay, kindly, Chair. Just allow me to...
No, I will direct that we move to the next issue. It is 4:10 p.m.
Just 1 minute for my response.
Order, Governor, it is for your benefit that we are proceeding. Otherwise, if it gets to 5 o'clock, we shall adjourn and you'll come back here tomorrow.
Chair, just allow me to 1 minute.
I'll give you 30 seconds.
Only, surely, Chair. Proceed. The reason we come here is to answer. Allow us to answer the questions, the audit questions.
Yes, but we also have our timelines.
The fuel management system that we are now implementing, that is at award stage, includes GPS, includes a fuel station, a petrol station, physical, at our central garage, where we'll be getting fuel below commercial rate. That is a negotiation we got into, and we can be able to tell, even if if fuel is siphoned, immediately an alert will come out from that vehicle. So it's going to be a fuel management system on each and every tank of the vehicles for the county.
Fine.
That is the process we're in.
Auditor General, you'll confirm whether the tumepanga na tumetenga is true in your next cycle of audit.
Well noted, Chair.
Distribution of goods.
No, you should wish well the governor. Yeah. You should wish well to the governor.
I know what wakes Cherarkei up. 2.5 on distribution of goods. We take note of the Auditor General's finding. 127 million paid to suppliers for various miscellaneous items. Auditor General, were the payment vouchers supported with receipt and issue vouchers? Has that been demonstrated in the response?
Chair, we said we have received the stores receipt and issue vouchers. All that is meaning is confirmation of the originals.
So you will. This is one of those areas you said that you still need time to confirm.
Yes, Chair, that is one.
Fine. So do that confirmation so that when you're writing a report, you can advise us. 2.6 on supply of goods under emergency department. Again, we take note of the Auditor General's finding to the effect that foodstuff totaling 275 million was procured for disaster and emergency. Another expenditure of 37 million in respect of emergency COVID response, and 15,900 mattresses at a cost of 135 million. The total expenditure queried is 448 million on emergency services. And the Auditor General was questioning the legality and the prudence of that expenditure. Auditor General, have you gotten the information that you needed?
Chair, we have the documents. Again, the confirmation is what we were requesting from the committee.
So that's 2.6. The county says that the records are attached, and you had said that you needed some time to review the records.
Yes, Chair.
Okay, then we'll give you time so that you can advise us when you're writing the report. 2.7 on unsupported procurement of goods. What were you asking for? Receipt and issue vouchers and approval for the payments made without a budget. We take note of the county's response saying that they were directly delivered to the end users. So, Governor, what does that mean? That you do not have you do not have receipt and issue vouchers for the goods?
Yes. If the assertion is that they were given directly to the end users, then that means that documentation is not there. I don't know if there was anything further supplied to the Auditor General.
So if it's a position of the county that those issue vouchers, receipt and issue vouchers do not exist, it is upon the committee to make a determination on whether the procurement officers or the persons involved in this procurement complied with the law, even if it was an emergency procurement. Because I can see that the county's response is very brief, that due to the emergency nature, materials were directly delivered to the end users. But there is also the other question of payments which were made without a budget. If this is a response of the county government, I think as a committee, we definitely must find some people to have broken the law in this procurement. Irregularities in procurement of masks. We take note of the Auditor General's finding under 2.8. The county government responds by saying that there was a mix-up in dates in the memo and that goods procured were delivered and there was no loss of funds. Auditor General, do you agree?
Chair, I think management is in agreement with audit observation that the dates were not correct. Justification for the mix-up, Chair, is what we are looking for.
Was there loss of funds?
Chair, this is procurement. So if chronology of events is doubtful, then we cannot tell whether the procurement was actual.
So the problem is approval was given on 28th of March. Requisition for the purchase was done on 28th August. After approval to procure had already been done. Further, the LPO was issued on 16th April before the requisition was done. So that is a breach of the procurement regulations, isn't it?
Yes, Chair.
And there was a procurement, there was a head of supply chain who perhaps did a professional opinion. We must hold that head of procurement to account because that's a member of a regulated profession. So here we agree with you that the head of supply chain or the person who issued the professional opinion must be held to account.
I'm very interested in the Auditor General's take on that. Your second statement in your finding. What is the basis of you concluding that there was money lost if you are telling us that the bidder supplied the masks? How did you confirm that the masks were supplied?
Chair, in my statement, I've not said that we've confirmed no money was lost. I've said, in the absence of following the law as it is, then we cannot be able to confirm.
So how did you confirm the masks were supplied? What's the basis of that confirmation?
Based on the documents.
Invoices and? What documents did you look at? Delivery notes, were they availed?
Allow me to go back to the question, Chair.
But that same paragraph says that the county was invoiced 1 year before delivery was done. Or is that the mix-up in dates that you are alluding to, Governor? Because I mean, it would be very stupid theft where you invoice 1 year before delivery. Is that the mix-up of dates you are alluding to in your response?
Chair, on this one I can't comment. In fact, at this time I was chairing the COVID committee in the Senate, trying to look at these problems at that time. So I'll allow the committee to make its finding on this, Chair. Unless anyone, maybe the supply chain. Is Mogoko. Yeah, unless you can comment on this.
I think this one we don't need to waste too much time about this. These are irregularities that were rife during the emergency period, and we cannot just excuse it that it was COVID time. Everyone had a professional responsibility to do the right thing. 2.9 retreats at an unknown venue.
Who was the governor then? Chair, this is laughable. Could be the governor be under security threat. Could not reveal where they were.
So we are querying the payment of 2.9 million, which was paid for a retreat whose venue was not disclosed for audit review. Governor, could you tell us the venue for this event?
According to the documentation, it is Marbolak Hotel. That is the response that we've given. That is the training for drivers.
Auditor General,
documents provided.
do you confirm?
auditors.
Have they now provided documentation to confirm that?
Chair, we don't have appendix 2.9, so
Where is that appendix?
we are unable to confirm.
You had not, it had not been presented to you.
No, Chair.
Governor, you cannot present to us documents that you have not subjected to the Auditor General. And so if the Auditor General has not seen Appendix 2.9, then the venue remains unknown.
Is it the new file? There's a new file.
Why?
Members, it's 2.9 million, so the amount is not very material, but so it should not take us a lot of time to deal with. Senator Sifuna?
Now, I wanted the governor to refer us to that annexure. I can't seem to find it.
So neither can I. I'm asking the Director of Accounting Services.
Chair, that appendix is missing, but...
So the venue remains unknown, as far as we are concerned.
It was there. We are provided with the attendance registers for the drivers. Mabwak Hotel.
Where is it? Where is that evidence? That's the evidence the auditor was looking for, and that's why he called it an unknown venue.
Maybe when we are filing these documents together, it was mistakenly left out.
But you've had this thing for this report for the last 2 years. The auditor was on the ground. You didn't provide him with that information, and now you have an opportunity for mitigation at the Senate. You don't have it. You see, if you are going to say present it in 7 days, it will be making nonsense of what we are doing. 7 days is really for further clarification, not provision of primary documentation.
Sure, we are sorry we can provide this attendance register to the auditors as they are verifying the other documents. But I remember seeing an attendance register for drivers at Mambwaka Hotel.
Auditor General, just look, maybe within those 7 days you'll advise us, but as far as you're concerned, the venue remains unknown, and this was theft of public resources, 2.9 million. Domestic travel and subsistence, 2.10. Auditor, you had said this has been supported?
Yes, Chair.
2.11, other unsupported payments. Appendix 1, you had requested for more time to verify the supporting documentation.
Which, Chair?
That applies to 2.12,
Yes, Chair.
2.11, and 2.12.
That's true, Chair.
And the reason for that, Governor, is because your officers were sending vouchers to the Auditor General as late as when?
Friday, Chair.
As late as Friday. And that is unacceptable. I don't think that we will take that stance going forward. But now that the Auditor General says that they are able to look at them, we'll allow them to look at the payment vouchers. Failure to provide transaction status, Auditor General, you said this is partially resolved.
Yes, Chair.
What is outstanding?
The current status, Chair, of the amounts that were voided.
They voided 15.6 billion worth of transactions.
Yes, Chair.
Governor, what would be the reason for voiding payments with that payments which are that material? 15.6 billion.
CFO.
Chair, I suspect there were unclear defects in the system, which ideally should be done every financial year such that they don't accumulate to such colossal amount. But I believe that is what must have contributed to that figure. So what is expected to be done, and is what we are currently doing, is at the end of the financial year, if there are transactions in the systems that have not been funded for one reason or the other, either due to underperformance of revenue or late exchequer releases, they're usually voided before you close the financial year.
In your response, you're saying the authority to void transactions has been provided for verification. Can we see that? Is it in the annexures that we have?
It's not in the annexure, but it was provided to the auditors. I have it with me. The letter was...
Control of budget, what's your take on this? 15 billion worth of voided transactions. And we've had this conversation. And sometimes this is done. They seek the approval, and your office does the approval, then they go back and do their own things. And it's a way of stealing public funds.
Thank you, sir. Could I say something, Chair?
Yes, Senator Young.
I know this is historical, but my Chair, I can tell you that is the reason why, you remember the questions that we've been asking, that Kisii County has got 672 voided transactions. It looks like this is something that has been set up for, and I would want the Auditor General to give us the reasons why they think this has happened. And number two, I really, really would want, Chair, the Controller Budget to come and answer those questions to us. Because there's something going on between Treasury, Central Bank, Controller Budget's office, and finally to the county governments that are receiving the money through the executive.
Controller Budget?
At the Controller of Budget, we only receive the successful transactions in the exchequer requests. So the voided transactions happen probably after. So those ones do not make their way to the Controller of Budget. However, we expect that the voided transactions are authorized. They should be authorized. So maybe there must be an approval process at the county level of voiding the payments.
Could I ask a question, sir?
Senator Young.
Excuse me. How do you, I know, I've already heard what you're saying. That's why I'm saying I also wanted the Auditor General to talk about it. How do you void payments for 15 billion shillings and then you pay through some other? This is what is... Yeah, I'm actually baffled. Could you try and explain to us what you've discovered?
Thank you, Chair. Looking at the voided transactions, some of the reasons is one, what they have explained, that a payment has been processed through the process up to IP. However, that approval for the final payment has not been granted either by COP, to lack of funds. Again, a payment that we categorize under this are those payments where a payment is processed, however, wrong details can exist, like a wrong name, wrong account number, and therefore it bounces back.
Excuse me, Chair. So the three reasons you've given that are most likely supposed to be consequential out of this exercise, in your simple, common Wananchi's language, what can you explain to me is actually happening to these transactions? Because number one, you cannot pay something that doesn't have the account number that is proper, isn't it? Number two, if the payment has been authorized and the fund and the requisition for payment goes to the Controller of Budget's office, if the money isn't there, because you see, IFMIS doesn't ask you to file a requisition if there's no money. So the argument that the reason why this was actually being voided was because there was no money doesn't make sense. But I also know that if I took, like we have the case in Kisii County where the budget was mutilated, where the Controller Budget flagged out the budget which had been mutilated, which means the code that is supposed to be used for the payment of this money doesn't exist. I can see you are smiling. I'm with you now. Is that the true story? Yes. I'll see you are smiling. These things now we know them. So begin to tell us exactly how we are losing money in our counties. We don't want you to play with us. Many of us are well-schooled, we are accountants, we are forensic experts, the whole of this team. And this has nothing to do with what is happening at the county, because this is like 4 years ago. The governor wasn't there. Can you tell us and tell Kenyans what exactly is happening when you have those 4 hypotheticals?
Proceed.
Chair, I may not have a case that I have proved, but in relation to the amounts that are on discussion here, the 15 billion is patching up of payments towards the end of the year with anticipation that the exchequer release, the exchequer money will come in. And so come the end of the financial year, that money is not forthcoming. But these transactions have been invoiced through the process. And therefore, for you to close the financial statements in the system, these transactions have to be cleared. And therefore, the way they clear them...
That is one hypothetical. Give me the other 3. That is the one everybody uses. Oh, it was exchequer releases, exchequer... No. Give me, why do you think somebody would actually stop payment of 15 billion shillings?
Honorable Chair, can the finance experts from the county answer that? Because this is the system that they use on a day-to-day basis.
I am having a problem even with the county, because you had said there was no documentary evidence provided to support authorization and reasons for invalidation. The county says it is attached. We can't see it. We can't see it. Governor, why did you choose not to provide that to the Senate? Because I'd really like to see that authorization to invalidate 15 billion or to void 15 billion worth of transactions. I'd really like to see that. Yes, I want to see who has authorized it, who requested and who authorized.
Chair,
in your response, you have said the authority to void transactions has been provided. I'd really like to see that.
Yes, Chair, I can confirm that this was provided to the auditors. I have a letter dated 3rd August 2022, addressed to the Director, IFMIS Department, National Treasury, requesting for voiding rights for officers working within the county treasury, and 5 of them are listed with their PF numbers, their ID numbers, and email addresses. And the letter was signed by then Acting Head of County Treasury, Mr. Joseph Gadiaka. So,
and the response? That is a request?
So normally in practice, Chairman, once a letter is written, I've not seen a response back from IFMIS indicating that the rights have been granted. Usually within the stipulated time of 7 days, they issue the rights, and once the officers access the system...
And 7 days would have fallen on the date of election?
They're able to deal.
What was happening on 3rd of August 2022?
On the 8th.
Chair, usually for clearing systems, again, based on experience...
No, what significant activity was happening in the week of the 7 days from 3rd of August? Those 7 days that you expected to get response. What was happening in the country?
There was an election.
Yes. Correct.
Yeah, but I cannot fully ascertain the happenings then. But
why would one choose to void 15 billion worth of transactions on election week? 6 days.
Usually, Chair, the National Treasury grants an extension once the financial year comes to a close.
On 30th of June, not in August.
Sometimes, Chair, it runs up to at least a month or 2 after the financial year.
That's a completely different matter. You are saying authority to void transactions has been provided, but you have described to us a request to void transactions.
Correct.
And that's why I'm saying I'm very curious to see who granted that authority and when it was granted.
And meanwhile,
on 3rd, So I'd like to see when it was granted.
Thank you, Chair. And also, Madam CEO, how I would have wished that you actually gave us the lists of the voided transactions and where the payments were supposed to be, were supposed to go, and who was subsequently paid after that.
Yeah, Chair, as they do that, I'll want the CEC to explain further. You see, I understand, with the kind of even pending outstanding liabilities that are there, 100B, accountants will put things on internet banking, hoping that they can be paid. At the end of the financial year, everything that is not paid is voided. This financial year, the specific one that we're talking about, there was an extension from July towards the end because of the late exchequer release. So that is what coincided with August. Such that now, if it has not gone through by the end of the financial year, Paul, you try again next year as a pending. That's what actually happens in practice. So it's not that 15 billion was actually used to pay something else. I don't think there's a time the county has had 15 billion in its account, at a go. But it's that even now, if you go to internet banking, you'll find a lot of payments that are there, just hoping that a decision is made to pay them. You're talking about outstanding liabilities of close to 107 billion. Many of them are there. And they're just hoping that, with this budget I can get my pending bill paid or whatnot. So it's not that if you void, the money is actually then spent from CRF on something else. Because the auditors will be able to show that. And I can see
Chair, could I ask His Excellency one question? What you're saying is that that's supposed to be a normalcy.
The voiding?
Yes.
It's a procedure.
Thank you. Why is the Auditor General raising that issue?
Because of the quantum.
Hold on. No. He's not talking about the quantum.
But he's here.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. What I'm saying is, like I've said, Governor Sakaja, it's like in Kisi. Why would somebody void 968 payments? What is wrong? In other words, I want them to tell me whether what you are saying, that everything is put on standby, waiting people for waiting to be paid. Is that the case, AOG?
Members, I do not want us to engage in speculation. What needs to be presented by the county is evidence on the authority to void transactions, which so far has not been proven. But if we put together the coincidence of the dates and what was happening, even if it was year-end processes, National Treasury, do you allow them to go all the way to August?
Well, thank you, Chair. First, Chair, allow me to say, with the request for voiding, that one is proper. And Chair, I've always been saying that payment in accounting is continuous. And to avoid this issue of delayed exchequer, we usually advise county governments to continue processing up to IB level. So, if at the end of the financial period, then the exchequer has not been released, the only best way to do it is to seek for approval to void. And Chair, on the question you have asked whether we allow, issues of voiding is not standardized. It depends with the needs of a county government. So the county government can request for voiding even in August or even in July. It depends the need that has occasioned the county government to request for such a facility, which we give temporarily and close.
When they make the request, how do you action? Do you respond? Is there a user change request form that is filled? Because that must be part of the controls.
When they make the request and the request is approved, they are able to see it in their screen, the person with that right. I think the reader can...
So why do you make them right when you do not commit anything on your part as National Treasury?
Of course, the letter is marked for action to a certain officer, And once that one is done, a communication is made through the IFMIS. If the person with the rights check the screen, he will be able to see that the rights have been given. And they can print that.
Dr. You are there. I think the Treasury is failing counties. Any change in access rights, ideally in a properly in a proper ICT governance environment, if you're going to change me from an ordinary user to a super user, there's always a change request form. And that happens even in small organizations, perhaps even in the Office of the Auditor General. So if those persons whose names were on that letter, they wanted them to have higher rights than what they already have, ideally there's supposed to be a change management procedure or a change request form. So I think on this matter, let's have a conversation to find out what the Treasury ought to do, the controls that need to be in the system, what the COB needs to do, and then we can have a holistic proposal, but it does not take away the fact that this 15 billion, in terms of voided transactions, is a smoking gun. And we might want to ask people with greater capacity to find out whether those voided transactions it was meant to defeat the Office of the Control of Budget. But I think there's something the Treasury ought to do. There's something that needs to be put in the system, but there's also some duty of care on the part of the county.
Chair, point of information, if you will allow me, sir.
Senator.
And it will take me 2 seconds. Chair, I've done a lot of research on this matter, and the information I've been given is that voiding of transaction is deliberate. Normally, you will find the original budget would have been tampered with, so that when the payments are going to be made, the reason why anybody would void that transaction is because they want somebody else to be paid instead of who had been given the code number to be paid.
Chair, can I make a request on behalf of the people of Nairobi? Because I can see time is moving. And yet there are very critical items in this report that I had hoped at least to hear from the county government. I have pointed out some of them. I just request that you prioritize them in the interest of time, so that at least there can be a conversation around projects as well.
Okay, so then let's get out of this.
Yeah, but you've really awakened my mind when you mentioned the date and what it was close to. Possibly this was being voided to defeat me, in August 2022. If the allusion is towards the election time, August.
Are you saying you are supposed to be paid from that?
That money went to, yeah.
But I think the information you can get, Chair, because I understand the argument and I can see there's concurrence. Also, look at just the statements, the bank statements in that period about the amount of money paid out from the county. You can be able to get that. You can provide that. So CBK and you'll see. One thing, for instance, Chair, that I'd like to just bring to your attention. Every year, on top of voiding this, there's supposed to be refreshing of IFMIS users. That all users on IFMIS are removed, and then new ones are assigned. I found 2,000 users on IFMIS, Chair. 2,000. 2,000 what? 2,400 IFMIS users for Nairobi County.
Yes, even dead people.
Even dead people who've moved. And so I removed all of them just this last financial year so that every sector can have the specific number required with the different stages. But you can imagine 2,400 users. And that time, you remember, procurement was also manual. So procurement is manual. You have all these users hanging around in cyber saying, wacha nikufinyie, payment yako, So that is why I left this Senate to go to become governor of Nairobi, to sort out these things. Because that was the situation. You cannot have all those users. Somebody can create a procurement process from scratch. At River Road, get an LPO, you create even things that are not even on budget. Until the delivery note is done. Today, we're on e-procurement. Everything from the beginning to the end has to go through that process. And if there must be an exemption, in situations where you need to do it manually, it must be approved in cabinet.
Governor, let's leave it there. I think we've got a live matter that the ESCC, and I think it's in court, must have been in Kilifi, where the persons with rights to the system created transactions and made payments in the middle of the night because of unfettered rights in the system. So there must be a conversation around that, using the Kilifi case as an example and the Nairobi case. So I think members will have to deliberate on this and maybe come up with some proactive recommendations. The next one is irregularities in procurement of transferred services.
Yes, so that is not lost on you. On that one, there's a question that Treasury must answer, because automatically they should remove these users. What was happening with Nairobi?
No,
we'll come to that.
We agree with you. And that's why I said there's something for CAB to do, something for Treasury to do, and something for the county to do. The next issue is